for the Work-Based Learning Conference that was rescheduled yesterday. It was good seeing several of you there at that yesterday, but wanted to get this in before some conflicts next week that our team has. So thanks for joining us, and we will dive right in here to today's agenda. We're going to spend some time talking about the CLNA and local app, funding memo appeals, certification reimbursement, a few other things throughout today's session. As normal, we will pull up the calendar here. So we're going to be talking about the CLNA, which the deadline is coming up here. We've started receiving some applications from you all over the last week or two. So those are begun rolling in, and our team is beginning that review process. And then the local application until the end of March you have. Some other items here that we will be discussing, including the Awards for Excellence nominations, which we'll kind of highlight at the end of the webinar today. First, I had the communications team put together a little a CTE month slide here. We've had a number of good opportunities to celebrate CTE throughout the month here. So Brittany and some students from Area 31 were here for a proclamation signing at the start of the month. The governor and Dr. Jenner visited Central 9 earlier this week. And then many of you were here for the CTE and CTSO day last week, which was a great celebration of many of those programs, and then the career and technical student organizations as well. So yeah, a lot of good opportunities to celebrate the work that you are all doing throughout the state, and it's been exciting to see the governor and other leaders celebrate that work this month. All right, we are going to kick off with a little time here on the CLNA, and I'm going to turn it over to Laura for that aspect.
Good afternoon, everyone. Before I get started, in my chunk of time here, I'm going to talk about the CLNA, a couple of logistics with that, including our process. I'll also talk about the local application, but I also hosted a pretty extensive webinar with new directors earlier this week. We did record that session and we'll include it in the follow-up email. So this walkthrough will not be as extensive as our local application kickoff meetings in the past. I recorded a session with new directors and we'll share that with you in case you would like to see a deeper dive. Many of you have done the local application many times, but if you would like a refresher, then that would be a great resource. So regarding the CLNA, you will be submitting those by March 1st. Like Sam said, we have received quite a few and have a process for internal review. Those will go through a review from our program and data team, and then a separate fiscal review. And then you will receive you'll probably get an Indie Grants or an Inters notification in your email. I call those the easy to ignore emails. They happen in our inboxes so often that we don't pay them much attention. So I will send you an email, or somebody on the fiscal team will send you an email that just says your local application or your CLNA has been reviewed, and you can see comments in the CLNA Plus portal. So Chris has worked with our vendor to include the review comments in the CLNA Plus, similarly to how you can see comments in Indie Grants. Just another way for us to move things into a digital format and out of emails. But you will get an email from me that has been done, and then you'll need to see the comments in the portal. So let me know if you have questions on how to view those. There is a new spot to find those. And then again, you will need to have received this feedback before you submit your local application. And then I'll talk about the local application next. Okay, so we try to have the kickoff for the local app be Valentine's Day, our gift to you. But today is the 13th. You should be able to get in there, and all of the updates we've made, none were very substantial. So any remaining updates will be made very shortly. I'll point those out when I share my screen. The local application is due the last day of March, and you can go ahead and start on it. If you've submitted your CLNA, or as soon as you submit your CLNA, you do not have to wait for the feedback to get started on the local application. It's just wait to submit it until you've been able to review the feedback from the CLNA. And then I am going to share my screen and talk for a couple of minutes about the local application. Oh, thanks for the reminder on this one. This can be for your review. I will not read it to you. I share about the Perkins requirement for all expenditures to connect to the comprehensive local needs assessment. Often, whenever there's a question cost or something that is not in your budget, we will say, hey, I don't see this in your application. Can you help me find where it's connected to your CLNA? So here is the portion of the Perkins Act where that requirement is housed. You can read about the comprehensive local needs assessment in section 134. And then section 135 are the local uses of funds. And every dollar that you spend must be connected to one of these uses. And in our local application, you will find these in the activities tab. And this is where you connect your activities to the allowable uses of funds in Perkins. And you are required to do all of them. So even if not with Perkins funding, you are giving us assurance in your GAN and also in your local application that you are doing these things with your programs, even if not funded with Perkins. And I'll share a couple examples about in previous local applications here in a minute of some districts and one of the Ivy Tech campuses that we think does this pretty well. So this is a reminder. Again, you will have the slides for your reference. This is section 135, the comprehensive local needs assessment, and the local application is in section 134. For those of you who like to read Perkins. Okay, apologies for my voice. Okay, what I would like to do is go through the local application using one from this year. So this is Ivy Tech Bloomington. The 26-27 application looks identical except for one change, which I will note when we get there. But just a quick walkthrough while sharing a local app that we think really checks the boxes from our requirements and also isn't too much, right? Like sometimes less is more. The local application is a really good example of less is more. More words isn't stronger. So you're going to see, as you have in the past, all of these tabs at the top. You'll need to make sure all of the information in the boxes is correct. While the application is being edited by you, these boxes should be available for you to edit. So especially this contact name, we've seen some have, a new director has been in place for a while and there is a dated name in that field. So make sure you check this first tab, make sure these are your signers. There's turnover that happens, and once you submit your local application, this gets locked, and then Jed has to make the edits for you. If you have an alternate signer, when you are editing your local app, this will probably be blank, because we need another designation form for next year. So just a reminder, your fiscal signer, the person who signs the fiscal signature for your grant award, is going to be in the fiscal agent. And then in like Ivy Tech's scenario, Dominique, he's not there any longer, but he signed a form for Kelly to have permission to sign invoices on his behalf. So that process is annual. You just need to have your CFO or whoever your fiscal signer is complete a new authorization form. That does not have to be done now. That can be done much closer to that grant award coming out. So just make sure those are correct as you know them now. Any turnover that happens, if you've submitted, then Jed will need to make the correction for you. This is the one tab where we have made an edit. And on this example, you can see all of the activities that are planned. You can see how they documented the activities that are not funded by Perkins. So this is really an easy way for them to show evidence of completing all of those local use of funds. And even if $0 was spent utilizing Perkins funds. And then when you right click edit activity, the new question for 26-27, and it actually pulled it into this one, which we're going to look at. But this question will be new. In previous cycles, it said, how do you plan to continue this activity? That's really no longer relevant. So this one, we have just moved to how does this activity connect to the goals of your CLNA? Again, just helping document that there is that alignment. And then the description of the activity, the costs, is the funding that you're going to utilize from Perkins, and the details about what's going to happen and how you're going to spend the money. So this is the CTE, necessary CTE skills, and there's, you know, quite a bit of language here just describing what the plan is for completing that activity, even though they aren't using Perkins in this scenario. One other example, just to show an example of how some districts kind of utilize the equipment, technology, and materials. Ivy Tech budgets quite a bit towards equipment and materials. There is some very specific items in here, programs. There's specific things that are planned of purchase. They've gotten some quotes, and this is really great, I think, for them and also for us, to be candid, because when an invoice comes in or a pair form, then this is where we go. And this is where we see if this is in the application. If it is not, then we have to do a lot of digging and try to make the connection. But pair forms were coming into the activity or the budget tab. When you submit invoices, we do the same, and then just confirm that that was in alignment with your plan. So the more specific, the better, not just for us, but we do think that it helps with the timing of approvals. So that is, generally speaking, I guess, an exemplar example for that. Don't forget that there are other tabs up here which need to be completed. You can, you know, this progress and update will not be there for your new local application. You're just describing the new activities and the indicators which will be impacted by doing that activity. If you have an activity that checks a lot of the uses of funds, then here's where you can designate that this is accomplishing more than just that one activity, but it's also, you know, in this case, academic integration, CTE skills, and professional development. All of these do not have to be checked in the usages, but that's how they chose to document additional overlap. So that's all I'm going to really share from this tab. I would say the broad comment would be the more specific detail that you can provide about your activity, the better. And the easier it is to approve invoices. If you know a particular partnership or an MOU that you're developing, very often we can see that invoice and the district has connected that entity and the partnership and how much money is going to be connected to that partnership, and it makes those approvals really easy. So the more detail, the better in here. Um, a little bit about how they manage their budget. So here's you breaking down those activities by category. And so just a reminder, equipment is a threshold of a $10,000 purchase or more. Those require pair forms. Anything less than that would be a material. So in this budget, you'll see that it's similar to what they have in the activity tab. It might even be pasted. They have very specific items they're planning to purchase. They've listed programs in that activity tab as well. And when something comes in, here's that virtual welder they planned on buying two. It's, similar cost to what they had budgeted, even if it's not, that part is documented in your pair form. So this detail is wonderful. Any questions? Those are usually, when we have emails or conversations back and forth throughout the year, at least from Kathleen and Angie and I's perspective, it's usually about the details in those two tabs. So if not now, if offline you have an individual question, we'd be happy to take those. Another example I wanted to share, just to show you more than one, because that is Ivy Tech and they do things a little bit different. This is Doug, Vigo County. His budget tab, same thing, right? Equipment, this is great. Okay, a bit of a budget for each item he's planning to purchase. Personnel, the specific personnel that's going to be funded with Perkins. This shares with us and with you, the folks that should be doing time and effort documentation, and helps you create what your total personnel budget should be. And same thing, just listed out the portion that's fringe. Fringe and personnel are separate categories. When you do your invoicing, you will invoice for them separately. So if the gross pay is on the invoice, if fringe is being covered, you'll need to break that out and we'll need to see those separately, and because they are separate categories. We have seen where some look like they are just kind of, the total is lumped into the personnel, and then there's also a fringe amount, and the portion that's being requested for reimbursement is more than what's provided in the documentation. So just be careful. That's a really logistics thing, and maybe probably for some of your finance folks. But if we see that, we can be in contact about how to correct that. But that's one thing we have seen recently. So those are the details for those two tabs. One other adjustment we've made is in this this bottom portion. Hopefully you guys can see my screen okay. You'll see that the grant total, that's this budget tab, the amount that has been allocated and the proposed budget are the difference of zero. So those need to balance out and you need to budget every dollar. The activity takes the total that you have budgeted for activities and takes the allocated amount, so your grant allocation, and it differentiates the total amount you budgeted. And in Doug's case, he had a difference of 4,286 because admin for his district was that. The difference for 26-27 is we're doing the admin math for you, and both of these columns should be zeroed out. So your activity total minus your admin or plus your admin should equal your allocation, and then your budget categories should equal your allocation. So both of those will be zero. And that's something that we check when we review the local app. So we will we will send that back for correction if those aren't zero.
And Laura, this is Chris. Just to say it out loud to everyone. When you go into your new grants for 26-27, it'll actually say that on the screen. It'll have the activity total and it'll show the admin total. So it'll show you what it's doing in the math.
Yeah, I can pull that up on my screen and show you real quick. Okay, I just pulled up another window. It's just taking a second to load. Okay, so again, here's the budget tab, and then you can see right here is where that admin total was added in. And when you enter an amount for admin, and Chris can correct me, when you enter an amount for admin, it will populate it here, and then you should still have the difference of zero. So that was one thing that we edited this year, just to try to take some confusion. We would get a lot of questions. Admin's not an activity. You know, you told me I had to have a zero balance. Should I just add admin into an activity? And so we're taking care of that answer this year. I can just use this to continue. There wasn't anything else I was going to show on those other two examples. The programs of study, these are your adoption forms. They've been rolled in, but if you've made edits since we've rolled them in, you wouldn't see those edits. So I don't know necessarily when that date was, Chris, but within the last, couple of weeks?
Yeah, whenever we created all the grants new and we did that, we rolled all the current adoption forms. So we'll roll them once everybody's done with their grants. We'll roll them all again to get everything in case anybody added anything. So they'll be the official grants will have everything in it. So
yeah. So there's no work for you to do in here in terms of your local application, but it is a good time for you to see what's in here. And if something looks wrong, programs you don't offer anymore are still populating, then you have some edits to do in your adoption forms, but you would not edit in here. You would edit in the adoption forms. And then when we do another rollover, it will make the correction in this application. So you would not see real-time edits. It would just be after we do another rollover. Grant questions, these are copied and pasted from the Perkins Act. So these are a required component. When we do monitoring, we ask that you have answered all parts of the question. So like this question has an A, B, and C. And so when we do monitoring, we're going to look, did you answer part A, part B, part C? So as you're completing the questions, you could help your monitoring score by just making sure your answer is thorough and that you have answered all parts of the question. That is not what we are going to look at when we are approving your local app. We will not give you that feedback now. That feedback would happen when we start monitoring. Okay, we'll give some reminders like, hey, if your grant questions were sparse, then you might want to go in and get those updated before we start monitoring. But we will not do any monitoring now, just kind of giving you a heads up that the more thorough your answer, the better for later. So there's 9 questions. Those are required. These are your improvement plans. I always filter this status column. Oop, not that way, this way. And then any plan needed pending would tell you the improvement plans that you need to complete for this process. Terms and conditions. These are part of your grant agreement. They serve as reminders for how the funds are utilized and some of the requirements, some of its legal language. You agree to these by checking them and submitting your local application. You also agree to them with the signature on your grant award. Many of them, all of them, are in that GAN with additional information. So you will approve these multiple times But you just need to check the box in the terms and conditions. We have sent local applications back just for this, so just make sure you check them and don't let that be the reason that we have to go back and forth. You will, when you submit your application, we will be in like a review status. We will make comments and we will tell you anything that you need to correct for it to be approvable. We will have in this comments column here. You can also see who's going to be reviewing if you want to see that. So I don't know if these are official, but we will have to have an internal meeting still on the review process for these. But when you get it back, you'll see the comments over here. So that is generally just a fairly quick, but not so quick walkthrough of the local application. Hopefully I got to share some of our tips and requirements so that we can get them approved without returning them back to you. That's the ideal and helps streamline the process. In addition to submitting this, there is a couple of forms you need to upload. And you can find some of those by that print button that I just clicked in the top right corner. You can print your whole grant. There may be a superintendent or your entire district's superintendent board that wants to see the grant before they do their signature. And so that's how you can get that to them. It's a PDF. It takes a long time to load, so I won't print one of those, but it's just a PDF of everything you completed in those tabs. This consortium agreement button, you do not need to worry about. This prints the check boxes in the terms and conditions and then has a signature page. We are moving digital, right? So I think this goes back to the PDF days. Your approval of those terms and conditions is when you submit the grant. You also sign the GAN. So we don't need 3 ways to get these. So do not worry about that button. This consortium signature button is where if you are in a cooperative or a career center and you have sending schools, all of the sending schools need to sign off on your budget and your plan and your goals. And so they should have their signature is identifying the approval for that. Some of you do that during board meetings and so forth. So you can find the signature page right here. It also takes a second to load. So I'm just going to pull over what it looks like. And, signatures are approving the application that you're submitting. So this gets uploaded into the upload part of Indie Grants, and I can remind you where that is before I stop sharing, or right after I stop sharing. Okay, do you have any questions? When you are ready to submit, you've completed all of the tabs, answered all of the questions, you've got a budget ready, all of those things are complete. Then you will go back to the main screen where you see your grant and then right click. And here's where you can upload. So you can choose either of these, upload consortium signatures, or it'll take it to the same place, but you're going to be uploading the consortium signatures. We also ask that you upload your operating agreement, and those are the only 2 required uploads before you submit. Have both of those. On occasion, your board meeting isn't until later, and somebody will send me an email that says, can I go ahead and submit my local application and then do my signature page later? That is fine. Just give us a heads up so that we know to follow up on that.
Laura,
If you ever need to see things that are uploaded, view uploads. If you are uploading any, when you upload your signed grant award, when we upload the executed copy, if you want to see your consortium agreement and you can't find it, it should be housed here. So that can be a reference spot for you as well.
just to jump in here to Jeremy's question, we don't have any specific information this year, which is normally the case on a year-to-year basis. So I'm trying to recall exactly when we got the notice last year, but we wouldn't have any reason to believe it would be later or earlier at this point. So uh, um, that it's a similar process every year where unfortunately we have to start this process and utilize um, your estimated budget. And whenever we receive the notice from the feds, we normally have that to you all within a day or two. So it's a quick turnaround once we have it, but it is yeah, we there's just a level of uncertainty there. Um, and so you are always welcome to um, you can hold submitting your application if you prefer, um, while we wait for that. But there's just a little bit of a back and forth element there.
Yeah, it is
Hey,
helpful
Sam,
for us to get them.
Go
last year
ahead,
it was
Chris.
May. It was
Yeah,
last year it was early May when we got them.
Was it not till that? Yeah, yeah. It was a little later than. Yeah. Okay.
yeah. And in case we, should just emphasize the award total that is in the 26-27 application is last year's allocation for you. You should assume it will change. It would be nice if you could assume it would not change dramatically, but there are a variety of formulas that the funding may have been held stable, but the formula that's run in order to get Indiana's allocation, that happens, that can change how much we receive, right? We won't receive the exact amount. And then the formula that's run at the state level to distribute the funding to all of you is determined by census data, which has nothing to do with your CTE enrollments. It's all about population and poverty. And so you just can't really predict the change. On occasion, there are a small handful of districts that see a pretty considerable increase or decrease, but others are within that's not going to like drastically change how we are going to, run those activities next year. Generally, you'll be editing the budget tab and the numbers of the activity tab, but not needing to adjust the activities you're planning. But I would not say that 100% confidence, just what I've seen over the last couple of years. So that is a fair, I think, thing to talk about. You'll have a chance to make an edit after you get the actual allocation for sure. That's a great question.
All right. Other questions for Laura before we move on here? I
Hi, Sam. I put a question in the chat about clarifying what you mean by operating agreement. I've never uploaded an operating agreement before.
So your operating agreement, and Hillary, you may not have one if you're just serving your students, right? But when you're in partnership with like career centers who have many sending schools, or cooperatives who are operating with a variety of schools and have an agreement about how Perkins is handled, it's usually an MOU, but sometimes MOUs are with just a single entity, and like the operating agreement is how this district number, whatever, right, operates, how tuition is handled, how transportation is handled, how Perkins is handled.
Okay,
all of
so
the
we
details so
wouldn't.
that you can go, it's, an agreement where everybody gets on the same page, And sometimes they are referenced when someone wants to do something different. We will say, well, what does your operating agreement say? Does it address that and how does the operating agreement suggest that, if somebody wants to break away, do you need to give a 2-year notice, a 1-year notice, right? So we recommend that they be used and updated, but you may not have one if it's just Pike, right?
Correct. Yeah, I'm not aware of one, so that's why I was asking.
Sure.
And we don't have any currently sending partners, so
Yeah.
So thank you for the
Yeah,
clarification.
sure thing. Sure.
Audrey, you're looking for like a template or
Yes, my superintendents, I've been working on this and they are content with just having an interlocal agreement. And there's nothing about CTE that is specific in the interlocal agreement. So I had presented them with an operating agreement that I had been using, which was pretty thorough previously. And they kind of threw it back at me and said, they don't think that we need to have this. And so I told them that it was required and I would like to have at bare minimum what you guys would like to see in an operating agreement so that I can make sure that we are initiating that. So if you guys have something, that would be great.
I think we'll talk about that internally a little bit. I don't think we do at the moment. I guess I would be interested in
I can share with you what I presented. I can send that to you.
Yeah, that'd be fine. We're really just kind of asking for that more as like an informational item that we would not anticipate looking at really, unless, a particular situation comes up or whatever. And we would very much defer to each of your districts as to what you want to put in there and that kind of thing. If kind of, I guess I would be interested, and we've gone, we got a decent amount to get through here, so I might not want to spend more time on it here, but I guess I would be interested if others hearing Audra's comment, if feel free to like send us a message or something if that would be helpful for you in the sense that you kind of feel like you need that push that the state is requiring you to do this, then we would welcome receiving that feedback, and we can, work on putting together some sort of kind of operating agreement essentials or something like that, that kind of scopes out an outline, at least to some extent, of things that we're looking to see in that. So yeah, just kind of based on if others hearing Audra's comment, I feel like that would be helpful. That's something we can work to do. So, but more so, it's been we, just kind of looking through things like we have some operating agreements from some people, but then a situation will come up and we realize, well, we don't have anything on file for them. And then sometimes we ask an entity and then they say, well, we haven't really had anything in 10 years or something. So we're more so putting that in there to say, hey, you should have something current on file. So, but that is helpful feedback in terms of the pushback you're getting there. So
yeah, thank you.
Okay, I'm gonna move to, we're gonna move to some updates from Chris now. And we'll jump into those starting with our kind of where everything landed on the recently submitted CAR.
All right. So this is kind of how we came out, I guess. You see on the 2 graduation indicators, obviously we met those. Everything was really good. You see on the academic ones on 2S1, 2, and 3, we did all right on the reading English one. 2S2 is math and 2S3 is science. So if you look at the column that says 90% DPL, that's what you have to meet. The DPL column is actually what we negotiated, and then we and you locally just have to meet 90%. So you see the two red ones there, the math and the science are the ones that we did not meet the 90%. Then we have 3S1, which is the placement, the post-program placement. We did well on that one. Non-traditional, we met that one, and that's one we typically have trouble with. And then we met all three of the fives, the credentials, dual credits, and work-based learning. And you see, we did a really good job of setting our levels, because if you look at the actual DPL compared to the actual performance, they're all really close. So we were spot on when we set those. So that's how we did. We failed just those two. If you look compared to last year, we actually went down a little bit on the math and the science. We actually went down also on the non-trad, but we still met the 90% goal. So yeah, so that's how we did. And I assume most of you have already looked at your levels at this point. I guess we're going to talk about that maybe on the next slide. So your interim improvement plans, those are already, we've sent those out. Everybody's already probably working on those. I know some people are done. But the big thing that's come up in the last couple of days is this renegotiation. So like I said, we did a really good job of setting our state levels on some of these indicators. Some of the locals doesn't, maybe they weren't so great. So the plan was not to renegotiate. When we set the levels at the state and locally, we planned to set it for the whole time, and that was the plan. It turns out that may be difficult to do. So on some of these, especially looking at how we did it, we didn't have the 23-24 results yet when we did it. So we were using older data, and some of the stuff, obviously the SAT stuff is all brand new. So what we're going to do is this. On these four indicators, 4S1, 2S1, 2S2, and 2S3, if your actual was 10 or more less than your goal for 24-25, you'll be eligible to negotiate that indicator. So next week, we'll send an email out to everybody who is eligible, but you can look, if you look at and we've heard from a few people, and I think those people who I've talked to all fit within that scenario. So if you look at your actual, if it was 10 less than your goal, 10 or more less than your goal, your DPL, then you'll be eligible to negotiate that indicator. So we will send out, like I said, communication to those people next week. So that's kind of how I think we're going to tackle this. Go ahead, Sam.
Well, yeah, just a minute, reiterate. I mean, this is, obviously we're kind of doing this new process, both with our state performance indicators and the local, in terms of doing this for a 4-year time period. We weren't planning to be able to negotiate any of our levels. It sounds like at the federal level, there may be a little bit of flexibility there. And so we had it just wasn't really on our radar. Like we had locked those in for the 4 years. So it sounds like there might be a little flexibility there as we do our state plan revision process if states want to. And so, after finalizing these local level, a few of you have reached out on this. So we've just been kind of trying to think through it this week. And this is where we landed for right now, is what it seems to make sense in terms of these indicators that have had more a lot of variability over the last few years, and because of the different tests and things on those academic indicators, the state performance has really swayed up and down quite a bit. And so this is where we landed for right now. If you feel strongly about something that you think should fall within the ability to renegotiate, that is still not, when we send this out next week, we're open to hearing that, but that's kind of where we landed at this point. And again, this is just 1 year into everyone set their levels for 4 years. So for example, a lot of times, like with our 4-year state plan, for example, 2 years in, there's more of an opportunity to make adjustments. And so we'll consider that moving forward.
Yeah, it looks like the ones that we're having problems with are ones where they are higher performing schools and their levels were set really high. So even though they did better than the state did, they were way below their goals. So we're gonna, like Sam said, we're gonna look at those and try to get everything so everybody has an attainable level if we can. So enrollment. So if you're still working on your spring enrollment updates, those are due March 2nd. So if you have an issue with that or whatever, you have questions, just contact us. And the dashboard reports, people have been asking for these. They're all ready to go. We sent an email out about this too. There were a couple of new-ish districts that theirs didn't run the first time. It was weird. I don't know why, but we reran them and everything looks fine. If you're brand new, you're not going to have a dashboard. You'll have to go look at the dashboard where your schools are in 24-25. But if you were a district in 24-25, you should have a dashboard. If you have questions about those, let me know. We did make one change. We added on one of the early pages, we added a chart that shows a comparison of how locally you did versus the state on the academic indicators. So you'll see how you compare to the state population, the entire state population for 2S1, 2S2, and 2S3. We added that. That's, I think it's page 2 or 3 that it's on. So yeah, also we do the graduation, which we've always done the comparison, but we added those too. So those are out there for you to look at in interest. Oh yeah, and then so the last thing. So we are taking over. We talked about this last time, I think. The appeals are all going to be done. The funding appeals within Inters at this point. It's something that we have to do. I worked with the data committee at IACTA. We talked about how to do them, what makes the most sense, what might make them easier. I think we have a fairly easy way to do it. We're going to do it on the screen, a screen similar to where you do your adoption forms. You'll just go put them in. We're going to make it so you can, if you're a director, you can submit for your whole district. The CT director will do the submissions. If you want to submit it for all of your schools, you can, there'll be a drop down where you can see your schools and you pick which ones you want to submit for. You can hit all and it'll do them all at the same time. You pick the pathway and it'll do the whole district for that pathway at the same time. We are working on getting this all, we've got it mostly done. We need to get the data loaded up in there, but as soon as we have that finished, we're going to get that sent out. And in future years, we should be able to do this way earlier. So, once the funding crosswalk comes out for the whole state and the state board approves it, we should be able to get the appeals thing out at that time. So we should be able to get it done really early. And it should be pretty easy to do. When you submit one, it'll come back and tell you if the state or if the regional data substantiates there to be an increase. And if it does, then it'll automatically show you it's been approved. As soon as you save it, it'll do the calculation. If it does not meet the threshold regionally, then you can go back in and you can add any information that you want to add for us to review. And then we can review that and then we will make a decision and it'll be on interest for you to see once we make the decision. So, and you'll also see on there, we've got a link so you can go look at the jobs data for your, whatever region you're looking at. You can go look at that to kind of get an idea of if they're going to meet or not before you do it, based on that DWD data. Once we get that, the link's already on there. Once we got to get it loaded up into the system so it automatically does the calculation. So I think everybody will be happy with the way it will work. So, and as soon as it's done, we probably don't have time to show it today anyway, but maybe once it's done, I'll schedule another webinar. I know it might be short notice, but we'll schedule it. We'll record it. If you can be there, great. If not, we'll send it out to everybody so you can, you'll have it'll be a real quick walkthrough of how it works. So, and we are planning by March 1st to have that out. So,
Yep.
yeah, any questions about that or anything to add, Sam?
No, I think good. And yeah, it looks like we have some positive feedback on that item, but we're gonna landed a few final pieces there. And so yeah, we'll get that information all out within the next couple weeks. And proceed from there on that. Hillary asked, let's see. I'm having to rethink about this myself a couple times. So if our local LD or if our local DPL is 10% more than where our 24-25 was, then we would be eligible to renegotiate. I think that is correct, right? Yes.
Yeah, that's right.
We'll
That's right.
put
If you
that in
just take
writing
your
next
take
week.
your yeah, if you just take your AUL, your DPL, and subtract your actual, if it's more than 10, then you are. So, but yeah, we'll get that out next week.
Thank you.
We're gonna roll through a couple things here quickly. I unfortunately have a pretty hard 2 o'clock stop, but Lindsay's gonna wrap things up with a couple of programming items at the end. But I want to talk about industry certification reimbursement here for just a moment. This line item continues at 1.9 million. We will continue with the September 1st submission deadline. We're going to have the same kind of considerations that we had last year in terms of last year, the total ended up at about 2.3 million, and we were able to pull in around $400,000 of Perkins leadership funds to cover that gap. We can't go much higher than that and still do a variety of other things we either are currently doing or plan to do with Perkins leadership funds. And so, depending on where things land there, we'll have to consider how much we can cover with that, or if we might need to do some prorating, hopefully to a minimal extent. Say, for example, we chose to prorate failed exams down to 90% of the reimbursement rate or something to that effect. So I know that creates a little bit of uncertainty around planning, but it's just kind of, there's a certain reality within the limited line item, and the certification expenses continue to increase on a yearly basis, which is a good thing, right? I mean, we just looked at 5S1, it went up 2%. We're continuing to see solid growth in the credential attainment area, but that shows up in places like here. So, and then as we talked about many times, the payments next fall will go to conducting schools for certifications submitted this year. Because we weren't going to spend much time on it, we're going to spend even less, but really encourage you at this time of year, I know a lot of you are, you might be incurring these costs right now, planning for the spring, etc. And we asked this from you last year. This is just a list of some of the more commonly taken certifications that take up a lot of the line item in the last couple years, and their reimbursement rate, right? And so you guys are the experts, and we need your help if these have changed, right? And so I know we've received a couple things on AWS again this time in terms of some fluctuations there in terms of what folks are paying. But if you have things like that, particularly for something that is a very high volume, commonly taken examination, we need more than one person telling us that something has changed, right? But once we get 4, 5, 6 directors all telling us, yeah, the rate went up this last year, then that helps us, paint a picture for, okay, yeah, the average rate around the state seems to be somewhere around X for this particular certification. So if you have feedback on a certification rate, we welcome that. You can find all of the rates in the Data Explorer. The link is right here. So you can search any relevant certification and determine the rate that the state is currently reimbursing it at, and let us know if you think that warrants an adjustment. Any questions or initial comments there on the certification reimbursement process? Okay, and I guess I would just say on that, like, you know, and I really appreciate those who did this last year. Right? I know it's a little hard to say we're reimbursing something at too high of a level, but especially in the you know, with that limited line item, we really want to see those dollars go as far as possible, and reimburse certifications fully as much as that is possible. And so there were several of you who reached out last year and said, hey, you know, this one is a little that's pretty inflated. I'm paying quite a bit less than that. And so, well, you know, it's easier to say it the other way, I know, but if there are cases like that, again, that's helpful to ensure that the line item, as much as possible, is going to its intent of fully reimbursing certification costs across the state. Okay. All right. I'm going to turn it over to Lindsay for a few updates here.
Thanks, Sam. So just a couple of pathway updates. We are adding 2 new digital technology pathways for the 26-27 school year. Those are AI, machine learning, and data analytics. We are a little slow on getting info on those just because Ivy Tech was creating and adjusting some programs in that area. So we had to sort of wait until they got those competencies finalized. So they are working through that process, and we are adding those competencies to the review document. There are also going to be a couple of adjustments in digital technology, just because they're sort of trying to streamline all of their pathways. So we will be putting out shortly the master spreadsheet pathway document that we have, sort of that Excel spreadsheet where you can see all of the courses in a pathway. And we are not getting rid of any courses for 26-27, but we're sort of creating 2 options for a couple of the pathways where a course will phase out. So you'll be able to see, like, if you have kids coming in and starting that pathway, you know, you can move them sort of into this new option as available or possible, but you'll still have those courses that have been in those pathways. And I think it is primarily software development and networking that have those little bit of adjustments. So just a heads up on that, but review document will keep all of that, or make all of that clear, have competencies for all of the courses. And then that pathways document will show where those new courses are being added. So we'll get that posted soon on the website. And then just a reminder for everybody, Human and Social Services is going away, so will not be available for the 26-27 school year, but we do have an option for a waiver for that if you need to.
You got it, Lindsay.
I think so. Can
Sorry,
everybody
I realized that as I was, and I feel so bad, but sorry, everyone, I really have to go to this meeting, but I realized I was the one sharing. So we're all in different locations today, which is not the norm. So, all right, thanks for pulling it up. Thanks.
Yep. So yeah, if you have a question about a waiver, please let us know. And we will be working in the next couple of weeks to start reviewing and responding to those. That way you just have sign off before the end of the year. Yes, we know that was looked at and approved. And if you have any questions, let myself or Maya know. On our team, she is helping with those reviews. So I'm just going to put her email in the chat really quick. And you can email myself or Maya, and we're happy to confirm that we got your waiver or give you a heads up when it is reviewed. So, okay, and then our next slide. A couple of other programming updates. We have just recently posted, it just went up today actually, on our website on the resources page, some new curriculum that we worked with a vendor to help put together. And that is on our resources page. I'll also put in the chat here. That deals with the competencies that are in all of our principals courses that are related to the career navigation piece of all of our principals courses. So there are 4 lessons, there are slides, there are activities, all of the things that you could need. So we encourage you to share those with instructors who are teaching principals courses in your districts. Obviously, they are not required to use them, but wanted those to be available for everyone, as we know that the new diploma is a big task for all of us to take on and understand. So hopefully that will be helpful, not only in helping students understand it, but helping your instructors understand it as well. Our next piece is the Workplace Specialist Training Program. So we shared with you all that we recently underwent a review with Marzano Research for that program. The feedback was primarily very positive, and then they also provided a few key areas where we might look to make some improvements. So we have met with Dr. Lazarus and Audra to talk a little bit about that feedback. And then we will be convening the Workplace Specialist Advisory Committee to take a look at sort of possible actions that we might start to take to address those areas where we can just shore things up, improve things, so that we know teachers are getting the best training that we can provide for them. So we will be sharing the finalized report. It was just undergoing some final review as far as like, I don't understand the process. I'm not a computer expert, but with a certain kind of PDF that is makes it readable for people with screen readers and all of those kinds of things that Marzano was finalizing there. So we should have that finalized report to share with everybody shortly. And then lastly, the career guide. If you have not received your physical copies of the career guide, please reach out to myself or our general inbox, and we will figure out a plan to make sure that those get to you. So we've still got some boxes in an extra office, but trying to get those out to people, not just in our office where they're not helping anyone. And then upcoming items. So the Awards for Excellence nominations are open. Those are posted on our website as well. And I will put that link in the chat too. I have seen some already coming in. So thank you so much for those of you that have done that already. The link I shared will take you straight to the secondary info page, and it has the links to all of the 4 different categories. So process works pretty much the same. Deadline for those is March 2nd. If you have any questions or something doesn't seem right with the form, contact Maya and she'll be able to help you out. And yeah, and the we did not put the date on here, but it is in the info that where you fill out the nominations. It is set for May 7th, and we will be back at the Indianapolis Marriott East for that event. So we'll share more details as we get closer, but everybody can add that to their calendars. And then I will turn it back over to Laura to talk for a second on monitoring.
Sure. Our team has completed the phase 2 review, and those were, a deeper dive and a review of some of the uploads that you submitted into the portal. We are meeting this afternoon to select sites for on-site visits. And so within the next week, I hope to reach out to all of you who were a part of phase 2, and so that you would know whether you were selected for a site visit or to provide you the feedback from the phase 2 review. I will make an effort to reach out to those who are getting a site visit first. We do need to hopefully this afternoon block out some dates from our calendar and select those sites. So I think within the next week we could get that to you. I know many of you are waiting to hear back on those decisions. And then another item from me is just I'll start reminding about deadlines. The year goes faster than we like sometimes. So Paraform deadlines approaching April 30th. If you're buying equipment, then April 30th, submit your Paraform. And then I think back to Lindsay on the school accountability.
I don't have anything to share on that one. That would be a Sam update. But my understanding is that we are moving closer to finalizing the school accountability model. So I think Sam will share updates on that as soon as we have them. He's been a little bit more involved in those conversations than any of the rest of us. So if you have questions, about that specifically, I would route those to Sam. But anything else that we can help any of you with, please let us know. We did go over, I think, a little bit our allotted time today. So thank you all for being patient on a Friday. And I'm glad, as Brittany said, that we could give you happy news on a Friday the 13th. Rather than the bad news that you may have been expecting. Hillary updated COV. We are working through a couple of items on that, but hope to have that out shortly. There was some data that got adjusted that we missed somewhere along the way. So we're just working through to make sure that we have the most accurate information for the COV so that we can put that out. And then Shanti is ProStar. I do not know the answer to that off the top of my head for the ProStart. So if you want to shoot me an email, I can look into that for you and give you a correct answer for that. All right. Does anyone else have questions before we let you go? Oh, we have 5 minutes remaining, so we're not even over. We're doing great.
More good news.
Yeah. Okay. Oh, perfect. Will do, Hillary. Okay. Then thank you all so much for joining us and have a great weekend. And let us know if you need anything.
Thanks, everyone. Have a good weekend.